if you take care of your people will take care of your customers, and that is going to drive your business results. Help me understand, rather than why, right?
Yeah.
Like your 3-year-old, why? No, help me understand what's behind that decision. Take that pause, take the breath, think about your response, be respectful, ask the questions, and if you need time to still think about what are you going to do about it then in the end, say that.
Yeah.
Don't rush.
Hello and welcome to Hello Moxie.
Right?
I know we were jumping right in, and I was like, "This is so good! I got to start recording it." Adrienne and I were talking about how we both have daughters who are gymnasts, and my daughter she loves it. She's 10 and she's been doing it recreationally for years, and she's starting to ramp up a little bit. But Adrienne's got her daughter is really in it to win it, and so we were just talking about that a little bit. And Adrienne was sharing a bit about what she's learned from her daughter. Through her experience doing gymnastics.
Incredible how the teenagers can teach you a thing or two, right?
Isn't that the truth? It's always surprising. Last week, I think, or the week before, my daughter, she was working out. My oldest daughter is the oldest child of 2 oldest children. So you can only imagine she is very conscientious. Like I've never had to ever prod her or push her to do any of her schoolwork. She just does it. And now that she's a sophomore, she's taking her first AP, which is her first advanced placement course. And she's very serious about it. And her chore every day, Adrienne, is she's got to do the dishes every day.
Okay.
And it was the evening and the dishes weren't done. And I'm like, Sophia, you got to do the dishes. And she turns to me and she says, Mom, I can't be an academic weapon if I'm doing the dishes.
Whoa. All right.
I was like, I could not stop laughing. I'm like, what? What is it? I'd never heard that before.
An academic weapon.
That'd be an academic weapon if I do this. I still made her do the dishes, but we had a good laugh about that. It was pretty good.
Nice try. The dishes will take you 5 minutes.
Right. I know. Exactly. Well, anyway. So welcome to the show, Adrienne. How are you?
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a delight to have you join me on the show today. Tell our listeners, I'd love for you to tell our listeners a little about you. We share a common love for public speaking. Yes. And I love that the work. I'm so excited to dive into more of that and the work that you do specifically in leadership and talk about the power of the pause. But maybe you first can tell our listeners a little bit about who you are and what's lighting you up right now. Sure.
So I like to say that I am a challenger of the status quo. And I'm just ever curious about how can we be better? How can we do better? And I think when I think about those two things, that's really what has driven me, maybe my whole life, but definitely in my career. So I spent 2 decades in corporate learning and development, talent management, change management for enterprise companies. And I was an internal consultant. And so my job was to drive change, to help our employees to evolve, right? Grow their careers, develop in some skill set, or we were changing something, structure, systems within the business, and we had to get them there. That was my job, was get them there. And so there's always been this drive to understand what's under human behavior. Mm-hmm. And after a couple decades, I decided, this has been good. I've been doing this internally and that's been a lot of fun, but I want to take this broader, right? I want to be able to help more companies. And so I started Positive Delta with the mission to help the world be a better place to work. Mm. And the way that we do that is by focusing on the people within the companies. So we are looking at team performance and operational performance, but we're coming at it from a lens of what does this mean for your people? How are your people impacting your results? How are your results impacting your people? So what's your culture look like? What do your processes look like? What does your technology look like? And what's getting in the way of your people being the best that they can be to serve the business that you're doing? And, I've kind of gotten on a bit of a soapbox about it because I feel like we have lost the sense of humanity a lot of times in businesses. And we're looking at the bottom lines from a dollars perspective, or from a KPI perspective, from a productivity perspective, right? Customer satisfaction, yes, but always kind of coming back to this financial bottom line. And I hold that if you take care of your people will take care of your customers, and that is going to drive your business results, right? So I work with leaders who believe that, and maybe there's some fine tuning within their businesses to really get them to deliver that way.
Oh, that's such a beautiful mission, Adrienne.
Thank you.
So resonate with it. Having spoken myself and been part of many change management initiatives, I can completely relate to the challenge and the joy that comes when you can actually see people transform and an organization transform. It's amazing.
Yes. And it's those aha moments that I live for, right? It's when they're looking at, I like to bring in a lot of data, from it, behavioral data, but also the hard data, and like, let's unpack this and let's look at it. And when there's these light bulbs that go off, they're like, oh yeah, this team is having a communication struggle here. Right. So what can we do about it? Tweaks. Often it's just tweaks, right? Like, it can get bad, drip, 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 but it can get better, drip, drip, drip too. It doesn't take a lot all the time.
Yeah, so true. I love that you start that process by sharing the data with them. That's so cool. Because it's all here. It's all in the ether, right? Like culture, everything, it's all in the ether. Change is in the ether. But when you actually put the data in front of them and can show them, like,
yeah, it's really hard to believe. I mean, you kind of intuitively get it, but it's not until you're putting some numbers behind it that you can really see it, and those numbers are your engagement scores and your customer service scores, right?
That's
and really believing that it's the people behavior, your employee behavior, your culture, your leadership behaviors that really do drive that.
Yeah. So you mentioned engagement scores, right? So what other metrics, what other data have you put in front of leadership that has really been able to help them really get bought into change, to say like, oh my gosh, we've got to do something about this. I see it now.
Yeah. I do a lot of focus groups. So focus groups or kind of employee surveys.
Yeah.
And so in addition to kind of traditional engagement surveys, just getting in and really talking to teams. And that might be a double click from something that's come out of an engagement survey, where now we're focusing in on a specific team, a specific line of business or service, and just really understanding the day-to-day operations of a business. Because so often it's not the defined process that might be causing the problem. It's what happens in the dotted lines that connect the two steps, right?
How do you get to that? How do you find those little, intangibles?
I create trust with the people I'm talking to, and we talk a lot. We talk a lot. We map it out, and we talk about the dotted lines. Like, okay, so there's step A and there's step B. What goes on in the middle?
Yeah, it's that.
And when you really sit long enough with what goes on in the middle, that's when it'll start coming out. But you have to have trust first, right? They have to, and sometimes it's easier to trust someone coming in from the outside, right? Sometimes that takes work because they see that as, oh, somebody's coming in from the outside. They're looking to what? Lay people off, change. They're making some big change, right? Like, ooh, the consultants are in, right? Like, probably not, but maybe. But it will all be better, right?
It'll all be better, yeah.
It'll all be better in the end if you do it right, if you care about your people.
Yeah. If you
If you
listen.
care about your people, right? You can still restructure with dignity, with integrity, and serving your people. And 9.5 times out of 10, when things like that happen, you fast forward 6 months and the people impacted, they say, yeah, I'm in a better place now. Right. Because you found a better fit.
Mhm.
Right. So a lot of conversations. I also do behavioral assessments to understand the preferred work style for individuals. So we all prefer to work a certain way, and that comes out in the way we like to communicate, the way we prefer to collaborate, the way we organize our thoughts and our activities, if we're highly structured versus more spontaneous or loose, if we like to go in a cubby and, think by ourselves, or if we like to brainstorm with a bunch of people in a room, right? Like, we all have preferred ways of doing that. And what I find is when you understand that about your people and you line the work up with that preferred way, magic happens. That's where your engagement goes up, right? Because this is how people find flow in the work that they're doing. That real joy in the work they're doing is because it's lining up to the way they like to be in the world and how they like to do their work. So I do that too, the behavioral assessments to unpack it.
I love that. And I loved what you shared earlier about the question you asked of what's getting in the way of people doing the best that they can at work. And this, you mentioned the behavioral assessment sounds like one of them, like the way that people are working sometimes is not aligned, and that can create a barrier to getting in the way of doing their best work. What other things have you seen or noticed most that seem to get in the way of people being able to do their best work?
Sometimes it's documentation, it's defined processes, right? Where if you take these for granted, or if you're a culture that is highly structured, and these have been, everybody's heard it, the way we've always done it, right? And you don't challenge that, you don't look at that, you could be doing something that makes no sense. You're doing 3 steps to when you only need 1 step, but you don't stop to consider, do we really need that step in the middle, or can we just go straight there? Why are we getting this approval when ultimately we need this approval? Can we just go straight to that approval?
Yeah.
Right. But if you don't stop, if you don't, to use our word, pause to look at that and consider that, you just keep doing it.
Yeah. And I can see how that would go both ways. So that mapping of the process is important. And that's identifying the gaps of maybe where there needs to be a process where there isn't one.
Yes.
And really like eliminating excess process that's just there for the sake of being there.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it's just inconsistency across teams that can cause the problem, right? Like, to your point, there's not a process. There's not some structure. So it can go both ways, but there's too much structure and not enough flexibility, or not enough autonomy for a role within the structure. Like, sometimes you do need to make an exception. Is that allowed or isn't that allowed? How's that handled in your culture? Right. And if you're driven to want to make an exception to something, to a decision, what guiding principles are you looking at to help you to make the right decision? So I'm a big proponent of building guiding principles, or maybe better known as like value statements, right? But it's something that anchors you to, if we're going to deviate, if we're going to push the status quo, make sure it still lines up to this. Are we still operating true to our values, true to our guiding principles? I
love that. That kind of leads to my next question, which is, when is it okay to stay with the status quo, right? Like, I think one of the things I've experienced in change management projects is sometimes you've got to hold on to that thread of tradition. There needs to be something that can ground people so that they feel like not everything is changing. What have you found helpful? Like when do you know when status quo is good as an organization? When are you able to say like, you know what, we're not going to change just for the sake of change. This is working.
Mm-hmm.
How do I identify what's working versus what's not working?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think, again, I think that comes out in the data. I think there's, when you are asking the right questions tied to your mission and your vision.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we should always be questioning our mission and our vision,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you see too many companies that get off track with that, and it could be a new leader comes in who has just enough of a different focus, just subtle nuance of internally feeling like what's more important is the productivity, is manufacturing, it's turning out those widgets, or it's get that higher dollar in revenue. But if your mission is focused on customers, focused on employees, are you compromising that mission to get the dollar, to get the extra widget, right? So looking at that data and saying, yeah, we are still operating true to our vision, true to our mission, and we could get the extra dollar, but can you do it without compromising that higher why?
Yeah, I love that. This guiding principles, these guiding values. That's great advice.
And maybe the answer is keep doing what we're doing because it's working, right? Like our scores are good, our productivity is good. Making sure that you don't get over eager. I think a lot of companies do this. Like, oh, we're doing great. Let's push it a little harder. We can get a little bit more. Maybe get a little bit more is going to over compromise your mission.
What do you do in this situation where maybe there might be someone on the team who is not aligned to the guiding values? Mm-hmm. What is your advice for companies who may need to face some hard truths there, or identify if there's someone that's not a fit versus like adjusting the guiding values, based on the team,
Yeah. And it's hard. It's hard because we're human. And so it depends on the position of that person. If that person is highly influential, but the whole rest of the company is like, this is not going, this isn't what I signed up for, right? It takes courage. It takes courage for people to call that out. Mm-hmm. And I think what's important is calling it out with respect, trying to raise the awareness, as much facts as you can pull, right? And lead with curiosity, and really try to get to the bottom line of for that individual. What is your why? What's the push? What's behind the push? It might take an executive coach to really dig into something like that, right? It might take an influential direct report or an influential peer to just, hey, I'm noticing, I'm observing, I'm curious what's behind that, right? Be curious, because could be that leader is just operating, going, and there's no awareness of it until somebody shines a light. And then oh yeah, you know what? No, that's not what I want to be about. That's not what I want to do. And then now there's an easy pivot because you've helped to put that spotlight on. Or they don't see it, and then now you've got to take more direct action, right? And sometimes you have to do the thing, and you've got to get rid of the leader.
Yeah, but you're right. It starts with curiosity. And I think a lot of times there's a fear around speaking up and getting curious. There's an emotional toll that it takes when you do have to get curious and start asking some of those questions, because emotionally, oh my gosh, what if this changes my relationship with this person? What if they get upset? What if it backfires? And there is an emotional toll for speaking up. So I would love to know a little bit more. Like, I have this framework, I call it the Moxie method, and it is this transformational framework to, leading with Moxie. And the fourth stage is all about speaking up. And before that stage, the third stage is about stepping into fear. You have to get comfortable with fear and understand the fear and, see it as something you need to step into, and knowing when you need to step into the fear and when you don't, right? Because sometimes fear, it's an important signal and you need to listen.
Right, it's there for a reason. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's identifying when you step in, when you don't, and then speaking up and having these vulnerable conversations, which really is what makes your ability to have vulnerable conversations, to lead with curiosity, to sometimes ask the difficult questions, to say the uncomfortable thing that nobody wants to say out loud, is what makes the difference between a transformational leader and an organization that, builds transformational leaders. So what would you say, what would your advice be to someone who might be listening, who's really is curious about something, but afraid to say it or ask the question?
I'll answer that with an example. I've been working with a client who has had several higher level leaders raise behavior, we'll say, that he's not comfortable with. He's like, this doesn't align with my personal values. This doesn't align with our documented company values. But all of these people higher than me are doing it. What do I do? Right? And there's fear, right? Lots of fear. Like, I could get fired. What's the impact on my family and my well-being and my ability to provide, like, all of it, right? My career, my advancement opportunities here at this company. And there's an ethical dilemma going on, right? Because I thought I worked for a company that was aligned with my values. And now that I'm in this position, maybe it's not exactly true. Like, maybe at the lower levels, we're all operating like that, true to the values. But when you get higher and higher and higher, they're more willing to compromise. Am I willing to compromise? And so my advice to him was, you have to sleep with yourself at night. Right? So as you're deciding what to do, if you do nothing and you follow along, you go along to get along, so to speak, and you let this thing roll, are you going to be happy? Are you going to be still satisfied in the work that you're doing? Are you going to go to work and feel good about the work you're doing? Because all of us want to be serving to something bigger. I believe that as humans, right? Like, yes, we need to pay the bills. Yes, we need to eat. We need to take care of our children and our family and our dogs and our home, right? We have to do all those things. But once we have that sort of secured, we want to be doing something better, serving some higher purpose. And so can you go to sleep with yourself if you let this go? He's like, I don't know if I could. Okay, so what are we going to do about it? Ask questions. Try to understand why. What's behind it? What don't you know? Because there's probably higher level inputs that you're not privy to that are having them behave this way. They're making these decisions, and maybe, just maybe, it's not malicious. You just don't have all the information. Right? So don't jump to conclusions, and definitely don't mouth off. Right? You can't lead with your emotions in this scenario, right? So take that pause, take the breath, think about your response, be respectful, ask the questions. And if you need time to still think about what are you going to do about it, then in the end, say that. Don't rush. I think the short answer is really don't rush, and always continue to be true to yourself, because I believe that if we are authentic, Similar to what we said with we were talking about gymnastics before we started, right? Like it's always going to work out, right? Whatever, in the end, whatever decision will be the right decision if you're kind of sticking true to those values. Not easy. It's not easy to take that stand. So fast forward, he took a stand, and the decisions are still the same. The decisions are still made. And he wasn't personally impacted, but his team was impacted by the decisions that were made higher up. So he wasn't able to influence a different direction, but he can accept it because he tried, because he didn't lower his own standards to go along, to get along, right? So now he will have to commit to the continued decision that was made, but he can be proud of himself for saying, hey, I stood up for what I believe in. I stood up for what I think was the best decision for my team. So my team can be proud of me.
Yes.
Rather than, sorry, guys, we're going to have to deal.
Oh, such a beautiful example. And I love that it's such an easier step to get curious and ask questions. If somebody 100%, if someone's feeling like they want to say something, or something's not aligned with their values, or they have this need that they need to speak up, what better way than just to get curious and ask questions rather than saying, why are we doing it this? Well, I guess that is a question.
Yeah.
But like
maybe it's tone, right?
Yeah, like tone, but like to just get curious and ask questions so people can understand and listen.
Help me understand. Those, that's help me understand rather than why, right? Like your 3-year-old, why? No, help me understand what's behind that decision.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That diffuses the question. You're still saying, why are we doing this?
Yeah, but it's the way that
help me understand what's behind the decision.
Yeah. So it's not just asking the question, but framing it in the right way.
Yeah.
So that it's not coming across as combative or accusatory.
Right.
That's really great advice.
Which is hard when you're feeling judgy. I mean, let's face it, we're probably feeling judgy.
It takes a lot of self-control and self-discipline to be able to manage that way. It's a skill that you have to learn, is just, how to frame your questions in a way that it signals openness and curiosity rather than blame or, accusing.
Right.
Yeah. And I love what you shared too about like, you mentioned that, if you can't sleep at night, morally, if this is something that's going to bother you, have to say. I mean, I had a similar experience working for an organization where I was asked to lie to a client about a program that we had to cancel. We had to cancel a program because we weren't able to staff this program. And rather than just tell the client we have to reschedule, we couldn't staff it, they wanted me to lie and say that our staff member canceled at the last minute. And this is a very small thing, but for me personally, I was just like, I can't do it. I can't lie to the client. I'd much rather just tell them the truth. And it was my boss, and I was just like, what do I do? How do I, it was so stressful, but ultimately I just had to say, look, I'm not comfortable not saying the truth. This is what I'm going to do. And they said, okay. And I did. And the client was totally fine.
Yep.
And my boss came back and said, you made the right call. But the most powerful thing for me was that after that, I got a message from my direct report who had seen this whole exchange and said, I am so glad you said something. Yes. And, like there's people watching you that you don't even sometimes realize, that you have to realize like who's coming behind you, that's paying and learning from the way that you're acting.
Right.
You're mentoring people and you don't even realize it sometimes, So I totally can agree with like, just, I've seen personally that when you do speak up and say, it's not going to always go your way, but when it does, or not necessarily go your way, but when you speak up in a way and you're that's in alignment with your deep values, it's only going to help you feel more respect for yourself, really.
Right.
We all need to have, right?
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the people are always watching, right?
Mhm.
And that's how cultures change. That's exactly
Yeah.
how cultures change, right? It's not because you rewrote
Mm.
the vision statement, the mission statement, the operating rules. It's the behaviors. It's those little nuances that make the culture, right?
Mhm.
Well, so and so did it this way. I respect that person, and that person did this, so I should do that.
So true. So I think that just illustrates that, like, wherever you're at in an organization, you influence the culture. Like, you have a direct influence
Yes,
on culture. So I think for people who may be
yes.
thinking like, oh, I'm not in a leadership position or I'm not an executive,
Everyone is a leader.
everyone is a leader and you have the power to influence that culture in a positive
Mm-hmm.
way in the
Mm-hmm.
way that
Mm-hmm.
you approach.
Mm-hmm. And it might not be, you might not make a ripple, but others can join you, and then that makes the ripple, right? Good or
Mhm.
bad. Good or
Right.
bad. Yeah. So you can't think, it's just me, little old me. Let that go. No big deal. Nobody will even notice. But somebody will notice, and then somebody else might say, I'll do that too. No big deal. Nobody will notice. Little old me. Now lots of little old me's because
So
you just changed
true.
the culture.
So true. Well, you said something a little earlier, Adrienne, that I really loved. You shared that you have to take it slow with
Mm.
change. You shared that a little bit earlier, like, take your time. And I'd love to hear more about like this power of pausing and just what does that look like? How have you seen that transform organizations when people take the time to pause? And what does that even mean? What does pause? I'm asking you 10 questions in one. What is the pause? How can
Yeah.
people pause and why is it so important? What does it change for
Yeah.
people?
So I use pause as I've created a framework. So pause is an acronym, right? And I did my TED talk on this, and it really came to be from working with clients, and it just evolved. Like, I didn't recognize it as a framework and implement it. It just sort of became a framework. I'm like, I'm realizing that I'm doing this. This is what I'm
Mhm.
doing to help people not make these crazy reactive
Decision.
actions, right? These reactions. Um, and so how I've seen it transform is I'll give you another example from one of my early clients. We were doing a system implementation, very large, and we had the software that we were implementing had a hiccup. So we got delayed. That delay impacted our rollout. I was leading the change effort.
Mm.
It impacted 65 stores that we were rolling out to. Like, the delivery schedule was literally blown up. And the executive at this organization called me up one evening. Adrienne, here's what we're going to do. We have to take all this down, take all that down, recommunicate. It was a lot, like months of work that he was detangling here. And I think, no, we aren't going to do any of that because we just got word from the software company of this hiccup. We're going to sit down and we're going to pause. We're going to take a breath, right? Let's really think about how much of this needs to shift. What's the impact of this? We still don't have all the information. So we've got to wait a little, right? Yes, we need to say something. Yes, the stuff we planned for tomorrow can't happen. But we're not, deploying a whole different set of implementation, steps here. And so I walked him through this, and he was like, okay, we literally take a breath with me, right? And then we went through a bit of a mini assessment. And the way that I facilitate this is with two questions. What is true and what needs to be true? Only the facts that you know, right? Because a lot of times when we answer those questions, we answer them with our perspective, our assumptions. Nope. Like really. So you have to challenge yourself. Is that my belief or is it real? Can I back it up with some, again, we go back to data. Can I back it up with some data? Or is it an impression I have, right? What's true? What needs to be true?
Mm-hmm.
What are your possible options for adjusting? I call it the U-turn. Do we need a U-turn? So what detour options are there? Do we need to hold? Do we need to do nothing? Do we need to keep pushing forward? Do we need to maybe change the timeline? Do we need to descope? Do we need to add resources? Think about all of those. What are the possibilities? Don't make any decisions yet, right? So here's that slow, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and sometimes this happens in the matter of an hour or two, right? But compared to the 5 seconds that we would make a decision, a reaction, right, makes the difference. So really thinking about what are those options. And then the S of my framework is start. So what is the next small action that you can take? Sometimes it's let's get the war room together and talk more about that so we can all understand what really are the facts.
The implications, yeah.
Right? Sometimes it's just an acknowledgement. Yes, something has changed. You need to send out a communication that says what you know, what you don't know, when you're going to find out more, when you're going to update again, right? It's okay to say you don't know. That's a big thing I work with leaders on, right? It's like, we don't have all the answers. We can't say anything yet, except they're expecting to hear from us tomorrow. So no, we need to say something.
Agree.
Right?
That vulnerability to be able to sometimes say, look, I don't know what's going to happen. Or
this happened. We're still figuring it out.
Mm-hmm.
We'll let you know more tomorrow after we get the team together in a war room.
Yeah.
It can be that simple, right? So what's small action? And then evaluate is the last step. So kind of return back. Okay, what do you need to do now? Sometimes you can work your way through the steps of my pause framework really quickly because it's yes, you need to slow down to not have a reaction, but it's not such a huge dilemma that you can't just kind of get through it. Right. You get derailed, you can't make it to a meeting. Okay, what do I need to do? Do I need somebody else to jump in on that meeting for me? Can we reschedule? Do we have to cancel? Mm-hmm. Maybe your step is, let me just contact the host. I ran into a problem. I need 5 minutes. I'll get back to you, right?
Yeah.
So-and-so is going to jump in for me. Or can we push this to tomorrow or next week? Simple example.
So good. So here's my observation is that in general, entrepreneurs and executives tend to move at like rocket speed. They just, and I know because I'm one of them, you just want to go and make it happen. I've thought about this myself because I definitely have this tendency to just want to move. I just want to make decisions. I want to make progress. So I guess maybe for people like me who struggle with pausing.
How do we slow down?
Yeah. How do we slow down? But how do we I'm curious about why we do that. Like, why do we want to move so fast? Why do executives, is it like this external pressures that they're facing or whatever? But then how can we really implement this framework in a way where sometimes we're not just shooting from the hip or just trusting our instincts? Because that's another thing I mentioned is that you talk a lot about, let's look at the data.
Yeah.
But how do you know when to follow the data versus your instincts? So I just asked you 2 questions.
Yeah, there's 3 questions in there. So why do we move so fast? Let's start there. Well, I think the world moves fast.
Yeah.
I think yes, I think there is so much coming at us that we are afraid to miss anything. I think when I think about executives and entrepreneurs, I think we feel pressure to move fast because we don't want to be left behind, right? Everybody else is moving fast. Everybody else is reinventing and innovating and coming up with great new content and new services that exactly meet the market. And how do I keep up with that? So we feel that pressure.
Also, I think there's a financial pressure too. Like you've got to, if you don't move quickly enough, then you're going to be wasting money, resources.
Yeah.
And if you're a business person, you're always thinking about efficiency, right?
Yep.
So I think there's also some financial pressure.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think our egos get in the way, right? Depending on
entrepreneurs don't have egos. What? No. Oh, anyway, what else?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Just call us out now, Nicole.
I know, right?
So I think part of it's just there's an expectation. I think our world moves so quickly overall that there's just an expectation to keep up. I think we have to be so intentional about setting the boundaries to shut things down. And maybe that gets to the question of how do we do this, right? I think it's being intentional, right? And if you are intentional and that's hard, you keep practicing it. It's a practice. It's honoring yourself, going back to the values, right? Is this activity right now, right here, lining up to a needle moving goal, right? Is this a needle moving activity that serves my goal, that serves my vision? A lot of times we're pulled in. I mean, I don't know. I think the statistics are like we waste 4 hours a day doom scrolling or watching or binging on TV, Netflix or whatever. 4 hours. Can you imagine what we could do with 4 hours?
Yeah, it's incredible.
Half a day's traditional day's work, right? So when we think about we don't have time, it's how we're using the time. We all have the same amount of time. How are we using it? So, I think that's part of it. And setting boundaries helps us to kind of create that. Finding, I call it a pullover. Your step is pause, right? The word pause. And I think there's different techniques for doing that. And you have to find the ones that work for you because it has to feel good to do it. You have to come out of that slowdown feeling like it was time well spent. So if you don't like to garden, but you feel like that's the pause I should do. So you go dig in the ground and then you're aggravated because you're filthy and you ruined your manicure and you're not going to keep doing that, right?
Yeah.
It's not fulfilling and rewarding. So what is the technique that really brings you some peace and some joy?
Yeah. I think there's also like this, I think a lot of times people can get stuck, their nervous systems can get stuck in this fight or flight mode where that's a lot of, this need to move is like this fight or flight response in us. And the challenge when we get into that place of fight or flight is that we literally, the research shows you're not able to see the bigger picture.
Right.
You can't see the forest through the trees. And so the only way to really reset your nervous system is to pause so that you can get that clarity of being able to see everything as a whole rather than this one fire drill that's right in front of me that I have to solve right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that gets to your somatic practices, right? That you introduce in your model. Yeah. I think that's so important. And, one thing I do encourage is sometimes, your slowdown is movement. Sometimes it's going for a run.
Yep.
Right. Or a walk. Like I personally, if I'm feeling that way, I love to meditate, but I have to be in the right mindset to meditate. If I'm feeling all fired up, I can't sit down and meditate. My brain is moving way too fast. I have to move.
Yeah.
So I'll take the dogs for a walk or I'll throw on my running shoes and I'll go for anything that's movement, lift heavy ass weights, right?
Yes. Yes. That's so true. It doesn't have to just be
It
sitting
doesn't
still.
have to be, I think, and that's maybe a misnomer that people think the pause has to be still. And it really doesn't.
I think it's just about presence. It's about like being present in the moment and grounding yourself in physically what you're experiencing. So if you are taking that walk or that run, being present and really grounding yourself in your body and feeling your body running, right? Like, so just really getting in touch with your body in that way can help you get grounded.
Yeah.
Wow. So good.
Because it rewires you, right? It's activating, firing up different parts of your brain.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to shift gears a little bit and hear about, we talk about, and the show is all about women in history. And so this is a big gear shift. I'm going.
Okay, I'm ready for it. You told me it was coming.
What is a woman in history who has really inspired you? Or are there multiple? Do you have one?
Yeah, there are so many. And I decided to go with the one that first came to my mind. And I'll tell you why, because I think it's kind of all encompassing of my own values and my own aspirations, I would say. Michelle Obama.
Oh, I love her.
Yes.
Oh, she's lovely.
Yes. And I think she is, so she to me is a woman who is a model of like equal parts strength and support, right? She, in her own right, in her own accomplishments, has been very successful. And she's able to stand alongside and support a very successful husband. And she's able to find balance and make a family a priority. So it's, those three kind of pillars I think that's just such a nice, like, three-legged stool, if you will, right? Like just a model of balance, like to have her own successful career, also be in support of a successful partner. And admittedly, she's had to make some big sacrifices, right?
Yeah.
We're going to be living in the White House. I have young children, uproot my entire family and become a public figure and still have your own identity and make that identity, okay, now I will move into this position of first lady, but I'll make it my own.
Yeah, that's what the word that came up to me as you were sharing about her is identity. She has such a strong sense of identity that she's never lost. That's very uniquely hers. And that really does find the balance across all of those really important parts of being a woman. Yeah. You have family, work, community. Like she's really balanced that so well and maintained her sense of identity.
Yeah, and so authentic, and she's and so much scrutiny. She was under so much, still is under so much scrutiny, but she held true to, I'm a Black woman from the South Side of Chicago, right? Came from a working family, made my own way on my own merit, and honoring all of that. When she could have made different choices, but she didn't. She held true to that even when she was criticized for those decisions. That's strength. To do that, to stand kind of full circle, right, to the beginning of our discussion of holding true to what makes you, and holding that authenticity, and you'll be okay.
So true. Like, what advice would you give to our listeners about holding true to what's you? Like, how do you do that for yourself? Because it's clear, like I see that loud and clear, like that is a strong value that you hold, that you respect so much about Michelle Obama, that I respect so much about her too. How do you hold true to what's you, and how do you find out what that is if you're not sure?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think you have to find out what it is. And that's hard work. And I think you have to do it over and over again because it will evolve. It should evolve because you aren't the you were 10 years ago.
So true.
Right? So it's always checking in with yourself. It's always what matters most to me. I think about it, when I try to think about what does that mean for me, it sounds doom and gloom, but I think if someone's writing my eulogy, what do I want them to say?
Yeah.
Right?
That's a great question for people to be thinking about. I know my executive coach has posed a similar one. Is like, what would your older self advise you now?
Yes.
What would they want to tell you now? And I think if you look at it from that perspective, it goes back to like being able to see it helps you see the
bigger picture
of everything.
Yes.
So what a great way to like cap off our show is just to really like ask ourselves, what do we want our eulogy to be? And let that kind of guide you in terms of like finding your identity and let it be because you're right, it is a journey and it is always changing, who we are and our values.
And the how is changing, I think, right? So I think, and this is something that I've struggled with, especially as I build my business, is what am I doing now to serve clients? That keeps changing because it has to.
Yeah.
It has to because business is changing. The world is changing. Everything happening to businesses keeps changing, right? So I can't keep offering the same service.
Yep.
It's now no longer meeting the needs that were once there. So, but too many times I think I'm throwing up positive delta and I'm going to start this. Pause for pause. I'm going to therapy dogs. Because that's important, right? Or my sailing program, right? I'm going to throw it all away, and we're going to teach sailors to sail and throw some team building in on that. But it's still serving to helping the world be a better place to work.
Yeah.
How becomes different so that I can meet people where they are. What do they need to work on now? And so that's okay. And so I think for individuals, it's the same.
Yeah. Oh. We need a moment of pause to soak all of that in.
Let's do that together, right? Everybody breathe.
Oh, yeah. So good. Oh, I love it. Well, this has been so great. Well, I have one final question for you, Adrienne, and that is, I ask all my guests this, and it's amazing. They always come up with something different. What does the word Moxie mean to you?
Ooh. Moxie to me, the first thing that came to my mind was courage. Courage. And I think, oh, she's really got moxie, right? Like, and I think, what does that mean? How can I personify that? And it's standing up for yourself. It's standing up for what you believe in, right? Having that voice. But also doing it in a respectful way, right? It's not, that's part of it. That's part of the moxie. It's having the courage, but, not being offensive, not, being on a rant and attacking. It's doing it in a respectful way. Courage, respectful courage, maybe.
Ooh, respectful courage. Like it's, oh, I love that. Respectful courage. It takes into such consideration the other and community and collaboration and empathy. Beautiful. Oh, what a way to end our show.
We need more of that. We need more moxie.
We need more moxie. It's true. Yes. Oh, well, thank you so much for being my guest today, Adrienne. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
This has been so much fun.
It has.
To close out our show, maybe tell our listeners, where can they find you? And do you have anything special you'd like to share? Any programs you have coming up that you want to invite people to be a part of or anything along those lines?
Yeah. Well, you can visit my website at embracethedelta.com. That's our website. I'm also all on LinkedIn very often, so you can find me. Adrienne Guerrero is the LinkedIn URL. I'm sure you'll have that in the show notes. And right now we are doing an offer for September. We'll probably extend it into October. We talked about that behavioral assessment to kind of find your preferred work styles. And we're doing an offer. We're calling it a People Strategy Power Hour. You can do this assessment for yourself and up to 9 team members. And so you can have a look at, kind of get under the covers a little bit of either what makes your team work together so well, or maybe you'll identify some areas of opportunity where you raise some awareness. Oh, you know what? Nobody's wired for this. And so what can we do about that? So I can include a link for you for your show notes to some more information about our People Strategy Power Hour. And I'd love to talk to some of your listeners.
That'd be fantastic. Yes, we will definitely share that out too. So
wonderful.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. Keep leading with Moxie, Adrienne. You're just such a powerhouse. It's been such
Thank you. Likewise. It's going to take all of us, I think, right? So we'll do it together.
All right. Until next time.
Thank you so much.
See you.
All right.
Bye-bye. Bye. That's a wrap for today's episode of Hello Moxie. I hope you felt that unbreakable thread connecting you to the women of the past, to the trailblazing pioneers of today. Their stories of audacity, resilience, and courage are a powerful reminder of what's possible for you when you choose to live with Moxie.